sad truth. Sometimes we as Christians and ministry leaders run people away from Jesus instead of to Jesus. If you have a prodigal, if you have a neighbor in your community of a different faith that you want to come to know Christ and go to heaven, if you have a skeptic in your life who scoffs at your faith and you are at your wit's end and don't know what to do, this message is for you. As a pastor of a decade and as an individual Christian who has got it wrong multiple times in the past and has allowed God to change how I view people, there are three methods that Jesus used 2,000 years ago to break into the hard hearts of the scoffers, of the prodigals, and of the rebellions. Let's get into it. So the first question that you and I have to deal with is there are those who discount Christianity because they say, how can Jesus be the only way? How can God be so prideful that to say that Jesus who died on the cross is the only way? So here's the question that I'm giving you today that you can give to your neighbors, to your prodigals, to those of other faiths that will help you lead them to Jesus. And this is the question right here. If you are rejecting Christianity, what is your solution for sin in the world? When you see on the news a horrible murder, a horrible injustice, when you see a broken family, when you see prodigal children, when you see brokenness in the world, and that is sin, what is your solution? So notice, this is a question. This is not a statement. When Jesus was confronted, what did Jesus do? Oftentimes, Jesus asked a question. Notice when you ask the question, okay, what is your solution for sin in the world? That puts them out of the defensive mindset, and it puts the ball in their court, and you're not being offensive. You're not questioning their character. You are just honestly asking a question. And what this question does is it allows to show the weakness of every other way of dealing with sin in the world. If you go to the other faiths like Buddhism, Islam, any other kind of faith, what is their way of dealing with sin? Their way of dealing with sin is trying to be better, following rules, having commands. But what is the issue with dealing with sin in this way? Well, number one, it makes you to be a better person, but it does nothing about the bad person that you were. It does nothing about your lies in the past, your lust in the past, your hate in the past. It doesn't fix that. So it is a Band-Aid for sin that does nothing. So the first key and secret that we find that Jesus used all the time was ask a question. Do not assault them with a statement, but ask them a question that can lead them to the truth. So oftentimes, when you ask this question, the second response that they will have, which I have gotten from a individual who was interested in Buddhism and had completely rejected Christianity, but all of a sudden, when he was thinking about this question, he began to entertain Jesus because I asked a question. So when you ask that question, the next question that is going to be, well, what about people who live in a foreign country in the middle of the Brazilian rainforest and they're never heard of Jesus? How can they be saved? How can God be good if he's going to send them to hell? Well, here's the answer, guys. At this point, you can introduce the idea of common grace, that God is responsible. God holds every one of us responsible for the faith that we are given. And then say and be realistic. I don't have all the answers, but what I do know is that God will hold them responsible for the little bit of knowledge of there is a God and faith, but is he not going to hold someone in America who has the gospel everywhere, someone who is a preacher telling them about Jesus, is he not going to hold them more responsible for someone in a island in the middle of the tropics that knows nothing about Jesus? I think he probably will. That's the second question. And so God gives every one of us a responsibility. But this last one is key. And one of the greatest keys that Jesus used, that we see happening all the time in the Gospels, is the fried chicken principle. Now you may say, what is the fried chicken principle? This is what I'm about to tell you. Notice what Jesus is doing all the time through the Gospels. Notice what he's doing. He is eating with sinners. Eating with sinners. So what that means is, it doesn't mean that he goes and he sins with sinners, but he eats with sinners. He is in the same proximity. He has a relationship with them. And I found in my life as a pastor, I want to preach to people. But here's the truth. They're not going to hear a word that comes out of my mouth if they don't know that I care. So fried chicken, Cracker Barrel, food is a universal language. And so those people in your life, your prodigal, your neighbor next door who may be Muslim or Buddhist, the rebellious person that you know in the community that you want to know to come to Christ, here's what you got to do first. You have to share time with them before you share Jesus with them. You have to get the relational equity to speak truth into their life. You don't have a leg to stand on if you haven't been standing with them through their life. A great example of that as a pastor, there's a very educated, professional individual who works in a very professional field. And he would not talk about Jesus. He was very objectionatory. He was very conflicting. He wanted nothing to do with the conversation about Jesus. But every day I would go by and I would have a conversation with him. Nothing about God, about Christianity. He knew where I stood. But day by day, that consistency of showing up, guess what happened? It came to a point where he had a 30-minute conversation with me about Jesus Christ. And why? Because he saw the consistency. So whether it's sharing a meal with them, sharing their life with them, Jesus knew that if you want to speak life into others and to bring them to the Father, then guess what you have to do? You have to consistently be in their life. So I hope this video has helped you if you have someone in your life, and to realize that, are you running people away from Jesus by your statements, though they may be true? Are you running people away from Jesus because you're not empathizing with their concerns and their doubts? And also, are you trying to count them as a number instead of a person that needs to share life with you? So if you've enjoyed this video, like and subscribe, and have a great day.